So, good morning. My name is Vincent Mansfield, and today I will be talking about one of our book reports, and I call it Mind Over Circumstance. And so it's going to be books by James Allen. It'll be two books that I'm presenting today, and they're short, they're philosophy centered, and about self-development. And they're by James Allen, and the two are As a Man Thinketh and From Poverty to Power. And so both of them focus on how character patterns influence how thinking patterns influence character, behaviors, and outcomes. So I'll summarize some of the main ideas, explain what I learned, and connect them back to some of the ethics topics that we've kind of talked about this semester. So before going forward, I wanted to talk about who James Allen was. So in the early 1900s, he was a moral philosopher and a self-help pioneer, which is, kind of crazy to think that in the early 1900s they had this too, and it's popular even today, which shows how this kind of self-help stuff is almost cyclical in nature. Maybe it's due to the economy, maybe it's due to our ethical standards dropping, but it's due to something that's why it's coming back up. It's cyclical. So his focus though is personal responsibility and self-control. They're relatively small books, but they have a big influence on your life and if you apply them long term to yourself. And so they're still relevant in career ethics today, our daily decision making. They're also relevant in business decisions as well. So James Allen wasn't just a motivational speaker though, like as we know him as today, well, at least as I know him as today. He wrote about discipline, self-knowledge, and integrity when it wasn't mainstream. This is the 1900s we mentioned. So these books have endured not because they're trends or hacks, but because they're about thought patterns that drive our behaviors and choices in our everyday life. And so that makes them surprisingly relevant to business and leadership ethics today. So going into our first book is As a Man Thinketh. So the central idea is thoughts shape character. Character shapes your life, your entire life. And your mind is the engine room of your behavior. If you're not functioning like a well-oiled machine, you're not doing your repairs and maintenance, you're not, get putting some new oil into it, you are eventually going to fail. And it'll be first mentally before it appears physically. And so you don't drift into success. You build it mentally first. So on the other hand of failure, like if you build a mental success, you will continue to thrive. So those thoughts are the seeds, but the seeds you can do nothing without actual actions. And so these actions are what help produce results, but it all starts with our thoughts and the seeds. So the main argument is simple but uncomfortable. I think in the modern world, your life is it's a large part your life is in a large part the result of your dominant thoughts. So fumbling my words real quick, but Alan argues that people don't fail randomly. They fail gradually. This isn't, it's through undisciplined thinking. And the same logic applies to success. It begins quietly internally before results show externally. And so, that's why we think, someone became successful overnight, but they were building and failing many years or months, whatever it is, before that success propagated and we could see it. But we just see it now and we're like, well, he wasn't successful before, and now he is. It's an overnight star. But that's not always how it goes. And so the second book is From Poverty to Power. So it's poverty isn't only financial. It can be mental or moral. Like if we are in mental poverty, we're gonna have bad thoughts and we're gonna bring ourselves down, and then we are gonna bring ourselves down to physical poverty. So the power in this situation, or usurp this kind of mentality, is discipline, peace, clarity, and purpose. I think that's a big thing. Is nowadays I feel like it's so relevant nowadays is I feel like a lot of people lack the discipline because we're always on our phones all day and we don't have the peace or the clarity because we're always on our phones all day. The social media and everything is taken over. But I also feel like jobs aren't what they used to be, and people have kind of lost their purpose, and that also has helped bring ethics down in quality. So his focus in this book is on self-control before external success. So it pairs very well with As a Man Thinketh. And the main point I want to reinforce from him is that the real wealth is your character. Is are you a good person? It's not how many millions can you stack up. It's it's your who you are as a character and how you grow. So this book expands Alan's philosophy from As a Man Thinketh to larger life outcomes. So he argues in it that financial struggle is often tied to deeper patterns like your impulsiveness, resentment, revenge thinking, or lack of direction. Power isn't just money. It's stability to some people. It's purpose and control over decisions. He stresses that Alan stresses that without self-governance, wealth alone doesn't fix your problems. Like you can grow up, make a lot of money, and you'll still be a terrible person at the end of the day. Money will never change that. And so you should focus on your stability, purpose, and your control in your life. And so moving on to what did I learn from it? So your thoughts aren't harmless. They compound for or against you. I feel like nowadays a lot of people fall into this negative self-think where they're like, oh no, I don't want to do it. Or they have anger, envy, and entitlement that quietly erode their character. But to assert this, discipline. Discipline beats motivation long term. If you're disciplined, you can achieve anything. You go to the gym, you run, whatever it is, but you cannot outgrow weak thinking without facing it. You got to face it head on and realize like when those negative thoughts come in your head, shut them out right away. So what really stood out to me is the idea that thought is habit forming. So if you keep thinking, if you have negative thinking patterns over and over, they'll they won't explode you overnight, but then you're gonna build that up, and then one day you are gonna explode. So the book made me think. Books made me think less about big mistakes and more about how small mental habits eventually scale into bigger consequences. So our ethics essays have the same theme. Unethical behavior rarely begins with a huge crime. It's usually justification, silence, or convenience, and then it breaks into a big situation. So Alan's work directly supports that ethics isn't situational. It's habitual. When people say I didn't mean to cross the line, they often mean is that they didn't train themselves to even notice a line was there in the first place. So this aligns with what we learned about rationalization. People don't fall into fraud; they justify it first, or they don't see it and they keep moving. So these books force me to confront a part before behavior ever happens. So in accounting, finance, a few scandals begin with come on, let's just take a little bit, and then pressure and justification, the normalization brings it all in, and then overall they're just a bad person. But if you want a mental framework for discipline and ethical awareness, these books are some powerful tools. But there are some drawbacks. A lot of the book really has an idealistic tone. Maybe I'm a little negative myself, so that's why I wanted to read it and build upon it for myself. I wouldn't say it's necessarily data driven. I would like to see some studies behind it to back this up. And it's not practical in a how-to sense. Like a lot of people want a quick fix, but this is long term. So would I recommend it? I'd recommend these books to anyone studying business or entering a professional field because they're not rule books. They're internal operating manuals. So yes, I'd do it for mindset and personal growth, especially useful for like business students because I feel like it helps keep you going because there's something about mind over matter in the business field. So if you combine these ideas with technical skills, you don't just become competent, you become dangerous. But in a good way, of course. And so to oversimplify these books into one sentence, your inner life eventually becomes your outer life. All that it takes is time. And so the foundation is mental. And these books don't hide behind the circumstances. Think better, act cleaner, live strong. They pair well. And so yeah, this I didn't read that part, but this is not for people wanting a quick formula solution. You just got to do what you got to do.